the actual patient and the clinical process. So just look at this audiogram for a minute, and based on what you see, ignore this part over here. We're just looking strictly at the audiogram. We have a sensory neural loss. I want you to think about what style of hearing aid you would fit, and then based on that, what type of coupling system you would use, and then we'll talk about gain and output of the hearing aid. So ignore the little case study there and just look at the audiogram. What kind of hearing aid would you, well, let's start this way. Which styles of hearing aids would you rule out? IIC, CIC. How about canal? It's close. You wouldn't have hardly any reserve. Very, very little reserve. And so if a person insisted on wanting something smaller, you'd say, well, this is the trade-off. But I personally think a canal hearing aid is more noticeable than an RITE anyway, so we're a cosmetic issue. All right, so we've ruled out those custom products. So we've got ITE, RITE, BTE. What would you fit?
A RIC or a behind the ear.
Okay, RIC or behind the ear. Is there any advantage or disadvantage? What's the biggest advantage to a RIC?
Open ear.
Open ear. And in this case?
Well, you don't want to keep the ear open in that case.
So open ear acoustics for a RIC has no application here, right? Why? Why?
Because you need amplification in the low frequencies?
Yes, you need amplification in the lows. Very good. And with an open fitting, you're going to lose it all. And what's the other reason?
It's a severe loss.
How much gain can you get from an open fitting RIC?
35.
Yeah, at the max. 30, 35. And how much gain do you need even just with the half gain rule at 2,000?
Yeah.
You're at 37 and a half. That's for regular speech sounds. For soft speech sounds, it's more like 45. So really an open fitting RIC is out. But could you fit a regular RIC?
Yes.
Would you fit a stock tip or would you fit a custom piece?
I would try a closed dome, but I probably would end up going with the custom for that one.
Okay. Anyone else? I'd go straight to custom. I know I'm going to need 45 dB of gain. I'm going to be ordering a hearing aid that probably has 50 to 55 dB of gain, moderate power. And so I wouldn't even mess with the stock tip. Because then you're fighting, you know, the triangle. You're fighting feedback, potential, and, you know, fit issues. And it's going to be closed, so you're going to have an occluded sound anyway, right? Whether you have a power dome or a custom, it's going to be occluded. You want gain, so the best way to accomplish that is just go to custom. It's more comfortable, and the only reason to stay with a stock tip is to try to open it up more and more to minimize occlusion, and you're not going to do that here. You really have to close it because you've got hearing loss below 40 in the lows. Okay, so let's talk about output now. What kind of output do I need for this hearing aid?
Would you need a power?
No, not necessarily. It's, you know, we're in the moderate to severe range. We're not in profound.
Okay.
So I would say, did you say superpower? Or did you say power?
Just power.
Well, yeah, I would go power. Sorry, I misunderstood. not superpower. I would go a power 8 because I'm going to probably want to get something around 55 to 60 dB. So that's my gain, my full-on gain. My full-on gain is going to be 55 to 60 dB. What's my output? This is a trick question.
Depends on the compression.
The first part was right, depends on something.
Depends on the frequency. I guess like the band.
Keep going.
Comfortable level.
There you go. We don't have enough information here. There's no discomfort levels. So you don't know what the person's dynamic range is. And so because you don't know what the discomfort level is, how can you set the output below the discomfort level if you don't even have it? You could guess. Sadly, many people who fit hearing aids, that's exactly what they do. You'll discover when you go out there that people don't routinely do LDLs. They rely on the software. They can't. Really, to do it effectively, you need to find out what's uncomfortable to that patient. I mean, some people will do it on the back end. In other words, you fit the hearing aids and then you create noisy situations and loud sounds and you adjust the output based on their level of discomfort. That's the way to do it, but I find it's more efficient if you do find out what your LDLs are on the front end. So let's say that your LDLs are 110 at 2,000-3,000 range and around 90-95 at around 500. Where would you set your output?
100.
100. I've got 100. Do I hear 95? Do I hear 105? I got 100. Do I hear 105? 110? Okay, I just said the discomfort level in the higher frequencies is 110.
Okay.
That's uncomfortable. So where do I want to set the output?
About one.
I want to set the output below the discomfort level, right? So what if I were to tell you that I'm going to set the output at 115? I'm not asking that, I'm telling you that's what I'm going to do. Why would I do that? Am I going to cause discomfort?
Well, it's a sensory neural, so they might have like under occlusion.
There's a whole other basic reason. What's the answer to end the day on? Why would I have a discomfort level at 110, but I would set my output level at 115? And it's still not going to be uncomfortable to them.
Oh, you're losing it through.
Is it?
It's only gonna sound like 5.
And this is the big issue you're going to have to deal with when we go into next semester and start talking about putting hearing aids on people.
Tolerance?
So you're putting it at 115, their discomfort is at 110.
What does this say right here?
Oh, that's hearing level, not sensation level.
Oh.
And how do we test hearing, evaluate hearing aids? We use what?
SPL.
SPL. You're using two different measurement scales. So 115 dB SPL is actually lower than 110 dB HL. Oh, I love that. I think that's a really good trick question I'm going to use. Did you all get that? 115 dB SPL is actually a lower intensity level than 110 dB HL. So in fact, I am going to keep my output below their discomfort level. So you have to convert it one way or the other. So you basically take your 115 and convert it to HL, which is around 107 or so. And now I'm 3 dB below my discomfort level. Do you all follow that?
You kind of lost me at the end.
Yeah. Well, what's the conversion from SPL to HL? Depends on the frequency, right? Depends on the frequency. For speech, what is it? I told you this already. 20. Yeah, 20, 15 to 20, depending on degree of azimuth. So, but for individual pure tones, you know that clear down here, it's like 45, 25, 15, 7, and then it goes up to 8 or 9, 10, you know, right in that area. So you can see that, see if I'm going to put a 115, I'm going to drop it down to, it's actually going to convert down to about 106, 107. I'm not going to make it uncomfortable. That's the output, and then the gain. What is, just to finish up, what's the user's gain? Let me clarify. What's the user's gain for average conversational speech? Okay, think high frequency average. Do you see that? It's your user's gain? Somebody say it.
77.
77 dB of gain would blow their head off. You just mirrored the audiogram. That was one of the questions on the exam, right?
Yeah.
Why can't we mirror it?
Because you might end up overemphasizing.
Yeah, if I gave them 77 dB of gain and I started talking at normal conversation of 50 dB HL, that's 127 dB output. And what did we say the discomfort level in HL was? 110? Yeah. So, what's the simple, to get you in the ballpark, what do? Half. 35?
40, 35.
So for average conversational speech, we want 35. But if our goal is to make soft speech audible, and where's your soft speech? It's right here. The dots are right there. Are right there. How am I going to get sound for someone that can't hear till they're here to be able to hear that sound? Two ways you can do it. You either push this up or you push this down. But can I do it? I want to go to I want to go to 80 dB and I'm at 20. That's 60 dB of gain for soft inputs. That's going to be very hard to do. You've kind of reached your limit because you don't have enough residual and the loss is too much. So the goal will be, you know, to get up to speech, I only need what? I need about 35. I can do that. Oh wait, less than that. I only need 25 for here. 30, 25 to 30 just to get to my loudest speech sound. So if I can go then another 10 dB, yeah, I could do that. Another 10 dB, it's getting close. So by the time I get to here, I'm going to be at about 45 to 50 dB of gain. So the half gain rule was 35, right? But to get the soft speech sounds, and I'm going to use WDRC, I need to get up to 45 dB of gain. Maybe if I can even push to 50, so that then what am I going to do? I'm going to set my soft inputs, like if I have a 40 dB sound coming in, 40 dB SPL, which converts, so let's say 30 dB HL sound coming in, I want 45 dB of gain. But then, as the sound input gets louder, let's say I have a 50 dB sound, I don't want 45 to 50 anymore. Because now what would I be at if the speech sound were 50, if the input were 50?
90.
Yeah, 90. You know, well, that's not too bad still, 45 to 50, and then we get to be 100. Oh, ooh, that's tight. See how important it is to kind of calculate, okay, how much compression do I need to make to take that 50 dB soft speech sound that I pushed for them to be able to hear as much of those dots as they could, but as the sound gets louder and louder coming in, how much do I start compressing because I've only got this much room to work with. I've got this much dynamic range to work with. And somehow I've got to try to make the soft speech sounds here, which is unlikely, but then all the other sounds need to be here. And the loudest sound, I don't want it to be right there. I want it to be just above that. Otherwise, see, there's a perceptual thing that there's one thing about being uncomfortable, but the next thing is annoying. It's acceptable, but it's annoying. And people don't want that. Even though it's not uncomfortable, they're saying it's still kind of too loud. And then you go to that point where you say, oh, it's loud, but okay. I can handle this. It's not like I feel like I want to turn my hearing aids down. It's kind of loud, but it's okay. That's where you want to be for your loudest sounds. Loud, but okay. So now you're having to manipulate that compression to try to get what you want, to get as much of the soft speech sounds into this range without over amplifying the loud sounds.
And that's where you would get that one chart you showed us where it's a bunch of different knee points.
Well, yes, once you get to this point, it's going to compress really hard because you're now dealing with just output. But in between here, what I'm going to do is take the speech sound, these speech sounds right here, and I want to take them and fit them right here. So I'm going to be using like 2.5, 3, maybe even 3.5 to 1 compression ratio. Because I got to take that 30 dB and fit it into maybe only about a 10 dB range, maybe 15. So 2 to 1, 2.5, 3 to 1 ratio to fit it in to that space. That kind of decision making is the difference between just fitting hearing aids and being a really good audiologist. One of the best compliments you can get is when your patients refer other people and say, oh, they said you're the only one to go to because you're the best, or you really know what you're doing. This is what will differentiate you. If you want to just be average, then you can ignore what we're talking about.
So the gain is at 50 for those?
If I can get 50, I mean, just like I said, to get that TH sound, I'd have to put in 60 dB, and it'll probably just be a threshold. And I know 60 dB is, just because I know of the limitations of the compression, I'm just not sure I can get the 60 dB. I try, but I don't think I could do it. So, yes? Oh, I thought that was Catherine. Let me check. Were you able to find out? Oh, good.
If you want, you can do it on day one, 9 a.m.
Okay, so there's another exam at, oh.
Now, if you want to extend it longer,
Not for us. I never have. Okay, I panicked.
And they're recorded.
Oh, another exam.
I thought it was like back to back.
All right, thank you. There's another exam at noon, so we'll need to go 9:30 to 11:30, okay? So let's plan on that.
Is there a chart like similar to like the compression ratio one in the compression lecture that shows like the 3 to 1 and like the 4 to 1 and the 5 to 1?
We'll get into that.
Okay.
I'm kind of going past. I'm trying to get. I'm moving a few weeks ahead. This discussion will be in February when we start talking about applying hearing aids to people. But I find that it takes a while to really develop the ability to do this. So I'm starting this early, prematurely. So the discussion we just had, don't worry about that for a final exam in this class. Okay?